So that's where I'm looking to now kind of create almost like a program based on like now I'm getting really clear on that ideal client, the ideal purpose, because then I know I'm really stepping into more alignment. So I'm just constantly seeking that, like what feels light and expansive and energizing in my body. I just need to keep following that. I don't know what the path is. It's not totally clear yet, but I feel if I just keep taking steps towards that, it'll eventually, get clear to me.
Welcome to the Conscious Leadership Podcast, where soulful entrepreneurship and holistic mind-body wellness meet to help you heal, discover your soul's purpose, and change the world. I'm your host, Gabby Ortega, entrepreneur, psychology expert, social media maven, and soulful leadership coach. And it's my mission to empower you into becoming the light leader you're meant to be. Each episode will be diving deep into topics that will help you gain personal mastery over your healing and mind-body wellness, while also giving you practical tips and tools to help you create, market, and scale a heart-centered business around your soul's purpose and life mission. Whether you're in the beginning of your self-awakening journey or a seasoned inner work god or goddess who's ready to step into their leadership as a soulpreneur, this is going to be your new favorite place to be. We know that you don't just want to feel happier and more fulfilled, but you want to deeply know yourself and powerfully step into your life's purpose while creating massive abundance around your mission. That's why I've created this podcast for you, the light leader of the next generation. Welcome home. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Conscious Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Gabby Ortega, and I am, as per usual, so excited because obviously I get to invite and handpick all of my guests. So I get to pick the most awesome people to share with you, and I'm just so thrilled to bring on Dr. Janine Kreft today. So you guys, I actually followed her on TikTok for a while. Like, I'm a huge fan of her content creation. You probably know who she is, and you've probably seen her work. She actually translates really beautiful mental health concepts around trauma and healing into playful, relatable, original content, videos, TikToks, things like that, and is just an incredible force of nature. I am privileged to call her a friend and a client, and I just want to introduce her formally. So she is a psychologist turned mental wellness consultant, helping her clients heal and discover their purpose. And by incorporating holistic, spiritual, and trauma-informed modalities, she facilitates folks to embody their highest self. So welcome, Janine. So excited to have you here.
Oh my gosh, Gabby, oh my God, all of that. I'm just taking it all in, just receiving it. Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here and chat with you today.
Oh man. And it's been it's so funny because I actually put a post up today, and we were just before we hit records talking about content creation. And I put up this post today about one of my first clients was this big Instagram influencer. And I was so nervous to work with her. And I'm just thinking, thank God, because when I saw you fill out an application, I almost pooped my pants. And I was like, oh my God, I love this. I love this account. I love this human being. And it's so funny because I never hit you up in DMs, and I wasn't like, hey, I want to work with you. But when I saw you there, I was like, oh my God. And it's been such a privilege to work with you because you've done something that I think a lot of therapists, mental health professionals, women that I work with all the time are really scared to jump into, which is the content creation, the showing yourself online, the being vulnerable. And you just dove right in. And even before we worked together, before you had anybody helping you, you built an audience of hundreds of thousands of people, and not just an audience, but a very, very engaged, dedicated community. And I would look in your comments, and I remember people just helping each other and supporting each other and relating to your posts and saying, oh my God, that was me as a kid, and someone else sharing their story and experience. And it just, I get goosebumps thinking about just the space you've created. So share a little bit about, your journey. I think our audience is really interested because it's how the heck do you does that happen?
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Wow. Yeah, it's definitely been a journey, I would say, and took a long time to get here. So for folks that don't know, my first identity was a ballet dancer for 17 years. I think you danced as well, right? We have really similar paths.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. that. That's amazing.
Yeah. Mainly ballet and like musical theater and all those sorts of things. And so I was really focused on that. And I had some pretty intense health traumas along the way. I had a brain tumor when I was 12. Luckily, it was not cancerous. And then had a misdiagnosed appendicitis when I was 24 that almost killed me. So that was pretty intense. And so given all that, by the time I kind of hit the end of the ballet road, you would say, there were many injuries along the way. And it's just, as you can imagine, a really tough career with all the body image stuff and injuries and the intensity of the work you have to do, that I was just kind of done. So I finally kind of hit my breaking point after trying to recover from that appendicitis and just quit. And ultimately that left me with a huge void in knowing what my identity was. And so I had dealt with like eating disordered stuff like for years, I would say. And then I was really starting to hit like a depressive point and having panic attacks and just feeling really hopeless at that point. So that's when I first went to therapy around like 25 years old. And it totally just changed my life. I think just having that really nurturing space and had someone to, kind of hold my hand through the process of like re-identifying myself, setting boundaries, learning all these really healthy skills. And then I got back into fitness and teaching workouts. And I kind of think that combination of the talk therapy and really getting back in my body, since we were doing like traditional talk therapy, and the combination really did help me to heal. And so that brought me back to like going back to school and saying, hey, I want to learn all about this. So I got my master's and my doctorate in clinical psychology. And then when I finished and got licensed, I was like, wait a second, like this is it? Like, this is really how people heal? Are we sure? I was like working with veterans, and it just felt like healing was taking too long, or was too hard, or we were missing some really key elements. And so that's when I started seeking outside of the kind of traditional therapy model of like, what else is possible? And that's where I started to fall into like all the sorts of energy psychology, like EFT tapping.
Oh, you fell down the rabbit hole, huh?
Yeah, like hard.
Yeah. Like everything you're saying
like the
is
exact
so
same story.
Similar. Yes, no, like the exact same. Like I'm listening to this like, oh God, it wasn't just me.
Yeah, no, I know. No, it was like, and I didn't even, I started off with like access consciousness bar, like access bars, which where someone like puts their hands on your head for like an hour and basically touches all these different energy points. And so I like fell down like hard and fast to the like real woo side of things.
I love that.
Right. And so I just started to align with all that sort of stuff and like just what else is going on, what else is possible out there to help people heal. And so that kind of morphed into my new identity of, from traditional psychologist to more of a, trauma-informed, holistic, spiritual, incorporating all these things, because I feel like we're missing really key elements if we're not talking about the body or, a holistic point of view or spirituality. I mean, they didn't talk about that at all in school. I don't know about for you, but I was
like really lucky and went to a very progressive school, and that was actually my master's was the first place I ever heard of depth psychology, which incorporated spirituality, and the first time I had ever heard of somatic work. But I was so brand baby new to it, and I didn't really study it. It was like one class that they had. It was like very like kind of like just one random thing. But the thing that really shocked me was I was like, why isn't there an integration of the sciences? I'm not really understanding, because it seems so dumb to me. I'm just like, I'm sorry, like, doesn't everybody have a fucking doctoral degree? I'm very fucking confused. Like, it makes me angry, because I'm like, you guys have been, okay, so we got the anthropologist over here, the sociologist over here, we got the neurobiologist, we got the psychologist, we have the spiritual community and leaders, and spiritual psychologists too, and philosophers. Like, you're telling me that the research that you're doing on the brain isn't applicable to personality development and psychology, which isn't tied into nervous system, which isn't tied into somatic, the fact that our bodies are the first line of defense, and that like historically, like as freaking cavemen, like we didn't have language, we had bodies, and our bodies are the first things that are trained to pick up on energy, to read and understand and interpret situations that are either dangerous or safe. And so we have incredible wisdom in our bodies, and you're telling me that like we're studying all this stuff and it's like they're all separate and no one is talking to each other. And that to me was like, it blew my mind open. And then it made so much sense why everybody's so sick. Because we're only looking at everybody's only looking at one part of what's happening to them, whether it's the physical element or the spiritual element or the mental health element. And it's like, there has to be this integration because we are so much more complex than, this idea of we all are pieces of things. That's not, no, we have to all come together because that's where really all the information is.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I totally agree. And I think the body is so wise and holds so many keys and information for us. Even when we can't consciously make a decision. I mean, I'll teach people basic muscle testing to kind of get in touch with their subconscious. And for some people who are a little more skeptical about it, I'll say, this is really like a mindfulness exercise. You're getting in touch with the language of your body. I love using Louise Hay, Heal Your Body from A to Z, which is this full resource of, all these physical symptoms and there are possible emotional root cause. And so when people are saying, oh, I'm having this, and of course, go to a doctor, figure out what's going on. And can we talk about what might be informing it emotionally? Can we tap on it? Can we journal on it? Let's see what comes up. Because again, I totally agree. I think we just need to integrate all these things.
Yeah. If something's going on, my idea is attack that motherfucker at every angle possible.
Totally.
We don't know. We just don't know what's going to get to the root. And so try everything, you know what I mean? And because you can get better. There is balance, peace, happiness. Shit happens. Obviously there's outliers to what I'm talking about, but people have extenuating circumstances. I'm a big Malcolm Gladwell fan. If you can't, outliers and things like that. Of course there's going to be exceptions to that, but for the most part, we should mostly be able to find that kind of wholeness, healing, happiness, consciousness, and be able to live lives that feel really great. So
yeah. Well, and having that potential, putting it out there that healing is possible, because we know that belief is a huge part of this. And so if we've already decided that, okay, well, I have this disorder for the rest of my life or this disease or whatever, then that is all that can show up because we've limited the possibilities versus, yes, I mean, maybe remain somewhat realistic, like you said, regarding outliers and such. And is it possible if I at least have the hope or the belief, then something could show up in my reality to help me heal.
Yeah, and Dr. Joe Dispenza does a lot of research on this, and he's so phenomenal. If you guys haven't checked him out, he does just quantum physics, energetics, psychology, neuropsychology, things like that. And in his book that I was reading, his first book that I loved was You Are the Placebo. So if you guys are interested in the kind of mixing the woo-woo and the science, You Are the Placebo is incredible. And he works with lots of people who have chronic illnesses, illnesses that doctors can't identify or can't seem to get to the root of, physical illnesses, and of course mental disruptions as well, mental illnesses and things like that. But one of the things that I was blown away by in the second book that I'm reading, You Are Superhuman or something like that, Superhuman. So he was talking about how when you do have that belief, it activates the neurons in your brain to fire. And belief, that what makes belief and just telling yourself something, two different things, is that you're activating the truth and the energetic, emotional truth of that reality. So, and that emotional activation is what fires the neurons, is what creates a new pathway in your brain to think differently and to do differently and perceive differently. And he was explaining that part of this is that the focus and attention and mindfulness and using your brain in this way, we can actually train it to send out healing chemicals into our body the same way that when you're frightened, our body's like fight or flight, adrenaline, cortisol, run, fight, it's all this shit, or just freeze,
Totally,
or fawn, which was my favorite. I was like, oh, you're beautiful. And I'm like, ah! So if anybody can relate, just DM me.
Hit us up.
But yeah, so the idea that, our bodies do send out chemical signals. Stress, we know now from research causes physical disintegration of our bodies. It's so you guys, emotions and physical symptoms and body stuff, it's all really intricately tied together. And we do have the ability to send healing into our body the same way. If we can master our minds the same way, we react and our body sends out those, fight or flight chemicals, or we have to, poop and it sends out those chemicals, we can do the same thing. Our brain is the one that controls that communication to send out those chemicals. So we can send out the same things that heal our cuts. When we get a cut and our wounds close on their own, that's healing. So we can actually trigger that. Again, Joe Dispenza, I can't explain it the way he does, but go check him out, because he blew my mind open too about this kind of way of approaching meditation and mindfulness and intention.
Oh my gosh. Yes, totally. And it's after seeing veterans for, 6 or 7 years, I've seen a ton of complex trauma. And what did I also see? A ton of chronic pain, all these chronic illnesses, autoimmune issues, and just multiple issues that people were dealing with. And so, and I feel there's so much focus on the illness part of things versus healing and the wellness, right? You're saying that focus on healing. When are people told, visualize healing rather than all they can do is focus on the pain or all the symptoms that are going on. They're constantly talking about it with their doctor versus rewiring the neurons, what Dr. Joe teaches us, to be able to focus on wellness, to create that intention, focusing your attention on that, because it's just so powerful.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I worked with veterans for a couple of years at an equine therapy center, and the trauma, that they were trying to work through, they were getting massive results from their time energetically with the horses. So cool. And I started diving into that kind of research and what it is. And horses have this ability to match their heartbeat to whoever's riding them.
Wow.
And they have the ability to actually co-regulate with the rider. And if the rider's anxious, they slow their heartbeat down and the rider's heartbeat slows down. And then the bond that happens without language, where there's safety and trust, and they groom the horses and the horses let them, and they see that it's safe. And there's this whole amazing magical thing that happens, but it's not because, they're doing any kind of traditional trauma work approach necessarily. It's they're doing energetic work. They're exchanging this energetic exchange with these horses that they're working with, and it's healing their bodies and their nervous systems. And then they're able to go into talk therapy and talk about the things that are so difficult, to try and rewrite that narrative for themselves. But the combination of both is it really was interesting to see that work with trauma in that way.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel the energy piece was really missing, at least in my, formal training, because that is such a huge asset that can just make changes so quickly for people. That's kind of where I fell into neurolinguistic programming training, just, being able to speak directly to the subconscious and reprogram through hypnosis and things like that. It's this is a lot easier than having to monitor every thought and make sure I reframe it, versus let's just speak straight to the subconscious.
Which you can be hyper aware, right? Have you ever become hyper aware in your experience of your healing?
Yeah, totally. It's just oh my gosh, right? When you're in the middle of training, it's wait, do I have this disorder? Or do I have this thing? Maybe now I'm obsessive. Am I paranoid? Or did you take all the personality tests?
Yeah.
I was totally high on the paranoid scale.
Oh my God. I took the trauma symptom inventory and I was why did I do this? Yeah, fun fact, they make you in school take all the tests you're going to use with your clients, and it's well, that's illuminating.
Yeah. I feel the future of medicine is going to be more focused on energy. So I do hope at least kind of mental health goes that direction as well, that we're talking about it, incorporating it, because it's just such a huge key piece.
Yeah. And I think those of us who, I think now that we have technology, now that we have the ability to order a book instantly, know what it's about on Amazon.com, have it sent to our house, even hear it, an audiobook, we're choosing who we want to learn from. We're educating ourselves, whether we have a formal education or not. We take one track, and then I think more and more the younger generations, our generation and younger, are really expanding in a way, because we have so much access to different kinds of learning, different kinds of healing, different kinds of teachers. And now because of the internet, so much access to this information helps us see really oh, actually, let's improve and build on what we have. And we do need to incorporate all of this. So Yeah, if you're listening today, you're probably part of this kind of group of those of us who are a little bit rebellious, a little bit like, off the beaten path. But I do agree that like, for me, when I was healing, like that, this was the integration of all of the body and the mind and the spirit healed me. And I still have triggers. I still have stuff. I go through things like it's an onion. We're always peeling it back. But to be where I am now is only because I did all of that work and it was connecting those things. And I don't know about you, but that's definitely what was real for me.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I mean, like talk therapy definitely helped to a point. And then I think like naturally I was incorporating the somatics because I was working on becoming a fitness teacher at the time. So even though we weren't doing somatics in therapy, like the combination, and my therapist at the time even acknowledged that, saying like, I kind of think you're feeling a lot better because you're so active now in your body. And so it's funny because at the time I didn't put the pieces together, but now it's like, one of the first things I talk about with clients is kind of like walk me through a day to day. Like, are you moving your body? Are you doing self-care? And just all the things, not just how are you in your head all day? Because if we're feeling some sort of way, like likely if we move the body, we'll feel better. So just think we're going in this whole new direction, kind of what you're saying with like, we're no longer needing this kind of formal education. We can gain information from so many amazing people that are doing amazing work like Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I mean, I think it's just kind of like follow what feels light for you, what information feels light for you. That's what I follow now. And people are
follow
like,
your
what's
heart.
Your source? Yeah. What's your source? My source is this sounds good and it feels good. It feels light to me. So it feels true for me. And if it's not true for you, that's cool. And this is what I share with folks. So
yeah, it's your take. And I think that it's really important that and this is perfect for shifting gears where I was going to go more into kind of your social media experience. One of the things that's really important is that like, we are not each of us supposed to be the same. Like we learn these things and I think we go to school and we have teachers and there's kind of standardized ways of doing things. But I don't want you guys to just take things, absorb it and move on in the world. Take it, question it. How can I make it better? How can I make it mine? How can I infuse this with me, with whatever I have to offer? And then take that and run with it. We need to be improving on our systems every generation. And I think we have now been kind of trained to take things as truth, which in the last couple of years, I think we've had this great awakening where we're like, nothing is real. Everything is made up. Oh my God. And it's like, everyone's waking up to the matrix and we're like, you guys, we get to create the future. But that only happens when you step into kind of your fear a little bit, into like courage, I should say, and kind of like share what your take on this is. And it's not going to be for everybody. And that's beautiful because we shouldn't be for everybody. Each of us, what makes us as strong and powerful as we are as healers isn't just what we know in textbooks, it's our unique being. And that is the relationship between you and the client is like 80% of the healing work. So we need to all be ourselves so we can attract to the clients who need us, our medicine. And it's good that it's not everybody because we die if we had to like serve all 7 billion people in the world. So like let yourself be you, say what you have to share, let it land the way it lands, as long as you're mindful and you're not like out there hurting people. But share your opinion, share your take on things, be a leader, stand up, say what you stand for, what you think is true for you and feels right. Like you said, in what lights you up, what feels good in your body. And as long as that feels in alignment, you're going to magnetize all of the perfect people for you. And it's going to be a joyous experience.
So many gems there. I was like, yes, please. Because
I have my channeling stone. So I was like, it's going to be a good one today.
Good. Gosh. My sacral authority was like, yes. So like, because I was thinking, when we're trained traditionally as therapists, it's like, be the blank slate, like don't have a personality, like, you know what I mean? And so I think for me going into the shift now of more of a coaching, consulting work, I'm kind of like testing the waters, like, well, what really is my voice and what am I really thinking? Especially because it does bring up our own trauma responses if it seems like not well received, or if we're just focusing on the like people that aren't receiving it. Yet there's always a chunk too that are seeing you, are hearing you. So it really does depend on where you put your attention with all that. But it's such a process to like, I think, and I'm still learning this, to like speak what feels true for me, like, you know, taking messages in and then kind of marinating on it and putting the words out that just are light for me and what you're saying. Cause then it's like, we'll attract the people that are really going to understand and hear us versus just kind of trying to talk to everyone, which then I feel like your message is totally watered down because you're like trying to like not offend like every, you know, well, I don't want to offend this person. I can't talk about it this way or that way. But I mean, then the message is lost ultimately.
Yeah, exactly. And then it benefits no one. You know, think about like all the people missing out who don't get to hear your voice, who need to hear what you have to say because it's what they needed, you know? And it's like, I tell this to my clients all the time, like focus on serving the people who are hearing you, who are there for what you have to teach, and the people who aren't, that's okay too. And if they're triggered and you have things that happen in the comments and there it starts like, you know, they're devolving into something, well, good. The universe wanted them to be triggered into something so that they would be forced to look at something. And yes, you're on the receiving end of that, and that sucks. But it's not personal because they don't know you, and you don't have to defend yourself or engage or anything like that. Trust that like this reflection, whatever's happening for them, it needs to happen for them on their journey to catalyze something. And it's kind of like releasing that pressure of it being all about you, you know?
Yeah. Right. And it's like, we know this stuff, right? Where it's like, oh, it's all projection, like the way they're seeing us or even digesting the message is literally just how they see the world. And it was funny because even today on a post, there was, sometimes I was like, in the comments, I was like, did you even read the post? Or I'm like, how did you extrapolate that? Like, I couldn't even understand how they extrapolated their point of view. Right. And so it was helpful for me to like, just kind of recognize like, wow, like I'm even having a hard time seeing it, how you're seeing it, you know? And I feel like I'm usually pretty skilled at like holding space for like many, many points of view, but there are infinite points of view. So we have to, you know, be brave, so to speak. And that's why I'm in the middle of the process of learning. I feel like stepping into that.
Yeah, you like fell into the social media thing and the like audience thing. And like, I know you told me it was kind of like not planned and it just was like happened really, really fast. What's that experience been like for you? How did that happen?
So I was on and off Instagram for a while, like 2018, 19, and then kind of paused. But then I really started posting again, I would say like January 2020. And that's when I got on TikTok as well. And like, cause I don't know, Gary Vee was saying, get on TikTok. So that's when I jumped on there. I was like, oh, this is fun. It's like cute little like short videos. I'm usually a pretty succinct person. So I was like, this is like perfect for me. And I was like kind of at the time bored with infographics and whatnot. So, and then TikTok was just really popular at that point. So things kind of blew up. I was doing what did really well were these like boundary role plays that I was doing.
Love those. Oh my God, I felt so seen. She would do these like role plays where she would like, the ones that got to me were like when you were like a kid and you were like sitting or resting. Sorry, Mom, if you're hearing this. But if you were sitting or resting and then like the mom comes in the room or the parent comes in the room, like, what are you doing? Why aren't you doing something? Like you're being lazy or something like that. And then there's like, and then as an adult, it's like hyper productivity. And I was like, I like threw things on the floor and like ran because I was like, how do you know? And I don't know, you're just so talented naturally at like communicating that. And it also was like, it wasn't heavy. That was the other thing. Your videos never felt like there were some static posts and some video IGTVs and things that feel really heavy. And you're like, oh, I don't need that today. But I could watch that short little video and get something so meaningful from it and laugh and be like, oh my God, like, okay, this is kind of also entertaining.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that when it's like educational and entertaining. And what was really nice too, is then people, you know, could see it in real time, like make the connections of like, oh, wow, that's why I am the way I am. And rather than going into the shame of why am I like this or whatnot and making those connections. I mean, that's a big part of healing is also just all that awareness and psychoeducation. And then I love that it also created this like amazing opportunity for community connection in the comments because people would be like, hey, anyone else? I'm like this. And then like 50 people would like it and be like, oh my God, me too. And I think just people felt like as limited as you can in a comment section, but like still felt like seen and heard. So it was just such a nice thing to witness, especially when social can be like so heavy sometimes, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you brought up a good point too. It's like using your voice can be really scary. And I think one of the feedback I get the most from my Igniters who come into the Ignite program in the beginning, and they're just starting they're coming out of their therapy closets and they're like, okay, like I'm ready to like share what I'm sharing inside my room with my clients so confidently out there in the public sphere. But I'm terrified because what I so easily say behind closed doors to clients I trust and I have a relationship with is very different than saying the same kinds of things, just dropping them out there, being like, I hope it lands the way I want it to land. And knowing, like we talked about, that there are people, everybody has their stuff going on in the lenses through which they perceive our content. And also, not to mention, something that came to me was that like literally in our ancestral trauma, we would have been killed historically. Yes. For having a voice. Like anybody who's like going against the status quo. I mean, think about like all the witches that got burned in Salem and like all of like the people trying to do different things in the past. There's so much fear that it really ultimately ended in death. And I think we carry that with us too. I think, this idea, and women too, like using your voice, saying no, pushing back, gets you fucking killed. So I think there's also this, like we're talking body mind connection, I'm like having this download that like for me at least, like, yeah, that's something that I feel in my body to be true, that like using my voice to communicate social media stuff, even though it seems so different for my business, it's tied into this trauma of like, ooh, it's also like, does this bring death? Does this bring, pain? Does this bring like bad stuff? You know what I mean? And I feel that. Yeah. So I don't know if you can relate to any of that.
Oh my God. Yeah. All of it. Because I was thinking witches, exact same thing. And because we're also like steering away towards the mainstream a bit, or like the common narrative. And I think anytime that you're speaking something that's like slightly different or new, it shakes up people's currently held belief. And I think it does light up some of their own mental health stuff where it's like, wait, this is what I know to be true. You're saying something else. You must be wrong because I can't tolerate this feeling. And it's like all that confirmation bias stuff. Yeah. And so I think people struggle with that. And so it is like the new age, like lashing of, you know what I mean? Witch burning on social media. We're like, yo, like, look at your trauma response right now. Can we just,
so true.
Is it possible? If it's not light for you, cool. Swipe, you know what I mean?
Right. Keep going. Yeah. Don't, and also, and if you're like a content creator, it's like, just don't be afraid. Like it's an invitation for me, at least, like, okay, I can go deeper in my healing. Like, what can I do for myself? Or like, why am I being triggered by this right now? Oh, like put those pieces together. Like it's so funny. I think you mentioned like before, like you could have all these people commenting really nice things and you have like one comment that's like accuses you of being something really bad, or it's like, you're not mindful, or you're hurting me, or you're like saying this and you're like, I'm not saying that. And I will think about that motherfucking comment
right?
The entire year. I will be in the shower and I'll remember that comment like 5 months later, like, fuck, oh God, it's
you need to do a TikTok on that. There it is.
Comment. There's that comment. Just slap you across the face. And it's like, like guys, it never goes away. Like the kind of sting, the pain, because look, you are putting yourself out there, you're putting your heart out there, you're sharing, it's vulnerable, right? And if someone is like having their own moment and they're in your comments doing something, it can feel really shitty. And I remember sometimes I like have to shut off and like not post for a couple of days because I have to tend to myself and be like, ooh, I'm really feeling like not great. I need to like deal with this. And then I can come back to social media and giving yourself like permission to take breaks, to not engage, to still find ways to share your voice that is not going to be traumatizing for you, but, an invitation to, as a leader, just flex those healing muscles and be like, yeah, like part of what you're doing as a lighthouse for other people is there's going to be shadows, you're illuminating them. They're going to be like, no. And then like, they'll run away and they won't bother you again. And they're not going to come to your house and kill you or end your business. You can go through a shitstorm on social media and still come out of it with a, thriving business afterwards. It's like, it's going to be okay. The thing that's not okay is staying silent because you're afraid. because people need you, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's so powerful. And it is literally, and even us that like know the tools and we understand this. I was still like, okay, I need to shake this off, or I need to like tend to myself and then not look at the comments if it's like people are really triggered by something, you know, and I think that's okay because there's, God, such a demand that if sometimes you'll see in comments or DMs, like a demand to show up a certain way. You need to do this, you need to do X. And it's like, no, like I show up the way that it's right and light for me. Again, always through the lens of like, for me is what's ecological, what is best for me and other, like being safe and like nurturing and compassionate towards everyone. Yes. And I still need to speak my voice. You know, and ultimately, because I don't see it as a kindness to demand that people show up a certain way. Ultimately, it's like, because this is kind of our house that we're inviting people into and sharing that space. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic, like what pops up within seeing all the wounding within the comment sections.
Yeah, definitely. So you guys, you're not alone. We're all freaking out. We all hate negative comments. Exactly. We all, like, no matter how large your following and how long you've been doing this, it sucks. It does, because we're all human beings and we're here ultimately to help. And like, we want to do the best that we can, but like nuance gets lost on social media. And like in 200 like characters or however many you have in the captions, like there's very limited space to communicate some really complex things. But I think it's really awesome that us, you know, healers, people who really want to make an impact are still getting out there, like getting our feet wet, trying to give people what, you know, we think might be helpful, because our world is in a state of distress and trauma, like so much fucking trauma, that now that I know that my life can be different and like I've gone through that process, and I'm sure you can relate to this, like it's like there's no reason that it should be this way, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's like sometimes, as tough as it is to share the spicy messages, as you call it, you know, it's worth it, because it's like to the people that can hear you and can understand that and make the connections. Wow, like, okay, I'm going to show up differently next time the way I am with, you know, some like difficult family member or something. And those are the comments that we don't always see, or those people don't always communicate that to us. So it is trusting that you are reaching the people that need to be heard. And like you said, because there is so much trauma, collective trauma that's ongoing now. I mean, the world needs healing more than ever. And to have so many different points of view or messages delivered in different ways so that we can speak to more people, so that more people can hear us, right? So like what you're saying, we need everyone's voice.
Yeah. You guys, don't hold back. Like, get out there, start making some TikToks, like start sharing your knowledge, start relating to your community, and allowing yourself to be seen. And that's really all that it takes. And consistency, just like allowing yourself to be seen on a regular basis and help. So going back to kind of your social media, you know, it kind of rise, like how fast did that happen? Were you ready? Like, what are some of the like highs, I guess, and lows of this whole experience, this whirlwind that you've been on?
Yeah, it was crazy. TikTok grew really quickly. I would say like January to maybe like in 3 or 4 months that I was at like 300,000 followers, which was like crazy. It was crazy. And so that was a little nerve wracking. And luckily for the most part, it felt like things were pretty calm and just easy. And I would just mostly ignore, you know, like intense comments, or it was like not too bad. And then, you know, as we went through kind of just a lot of stuff in 2020, I think there were a lot of sensitive topics that came up. And I did a post kind of trying to illuminate multiple points of view to a situation. And there was like a mainstream narrative and a less popular narrative. And the less popular narrative got a lot of flack, you know, so to speak, because I was trying to, again, in service, trying to help people. I feel like I was trying to like help a family, like a dysfunctional family, get along better. I'm like, can we see this side and can we understand this side? Because I just really want to all get along and love each other, you know?
Oh my God, you were like, I'm trying, guys, please. Like, I just want us to all love each other.
I know. And they're like, no, this is not good. And I was just like, oh my God. So there was definitely a, you know, where I just kind of retreated. I had the same thing, had to pause and just, a lot of breathing and kind of reevaluate, and then come back out, test the waters again in a really like neutral way. And so it's been a process. And so then it kind of, you know, I think For me, I think we kind of can receive how much we're ready to be seen, like, if follower wise, at least that's of my belief, like, the followers come when we're ready to like really step into our truth and be seen and heard. Because I felt like when I retreated and was like shy for a little while, like things got stagnant in the process. Yeah. So it wasn't this like quick, easy, like, oh, here I am at whatever, 690,000 or whatever followers. It was a lot of ups and downs in the process. So if anyone thinks it's like this easy breezy thing, it wasn't.
It's like you step out and you're like, I'm ready to use my voice and I'm ready to like have 1 million followers. I'm like, yes. And it's like, no, like, it's not like that at all. It's just a process of like constant like healing and like getting used to things and like adjusting.
Yeah. And so I think besides the timing of everything that like worked in my favor of like, at the time gain on TikTok, and then also just, the algorithm, because I think that's always changing. So, and again, I also don't think like the amount of followers equates success, because clearly like folks have amazing businesses with even like smaller following. So, not putting weight on that. You know what I mean? On the number. And that's hard, I think, as creators to like not focus on the metrics, like, growing, or when you're like losing people as you pivot. It's just like it's a process.
It's a gnarly practice for the ego to let go of those like numbers as a metric for success. I think if you're growing your page, it's important to realize like it's not about the number. I've had friends who had a few thousand followers do 6-figure launches with ease because those few thousand followers were really, really dedicated. What actually matters is sharing your voice, sharing your opinion, offering value for your ideal clients, using social media as your platform to share these things. And if you can provide that value and provide that safe space for people to land, they're going to be dedicated to you and want to invest in whatever it is that you are creating because they already really trust and like you. If you're spending a lot of money on ads and you're like bots and like this, that's not going to convert to like, any kind of paying clientele. And if you're just kind of a reposting account, or you're not like, I see these repost accounts and it makes me really upset. Like, I won't call it out, but there's like somebody who has a repost account and they have a very big mental health account with a following built entirely from copying and posting other people's content. So they're not sharing their voice. And then they're like, I can't start a business. Well, because no one knows who you are and none of your content is yours, So cool that you shared this stuff. You have a large following. They don't know who you are, and they're not going to opt into investing in you, but they like your page and they're going to stick around for all the free stuff. So it really has nothing to do with the numbers. It has to do with engagement and community and feeling like they feel like they're a part of your world. And that's when you see conversion into sales.
Oh my God. Yeah, totally. And I think the whole idea of being seen and being heard, and that's just like a constant process for me. And like, how much do I share and what do I feel comfortable sharing? And, again, like going into all those like trauma responses of wanting like cocoon and be safe and like, don't look at me, and at the same time, like people do want to hear. Yeah. They want to hear from you. They want to see from you, and they just want to learn from you. And so I think trusting in that, and I think you do that like so well. And I just admire that so much. Tell me, like, what has helped you to like just really put yourself out there in such an authentic way?
Oh man, I didn't know you were gonna ask me a question.
You're welcome.
That's a really good question. I think first of all, like my support system around me really helps. Like my fiance, my mom, like my friends, like they're all like at this point on the social media space as well. So like having people like that has really helped me kind of like say, okay, I'm gonna be okay. It's fine. Like they've all gone through this too. It kind of normalizes the experience, and also they're my soundboard. So if I ever post anything that gets bad feedback or anything like that, I'll say, look, did I do something wrong? Like, am I missing something here? Can you help me? And if they're like, nah, like nothing. And then I feel like okay, my reality is like straight. I think the other thing is like giving myself permission to not be okay. Like there have been many times, especially in this last year, when I was pivoting and losing followers and feeling really like doubtful. And I was making more money than I've ever made in my entire life, but I was like losing followers and not getting engagement and getting shadow banned and like feeling like all kinds of ways and getting people like in my comments about things and things I was talking about in terms of like money mindset stuff, abundance, manifestation. I was stepping into the woo-woo, and people were like, no, you are a one-lane person. You can only talk about trauma from a scientific lens. And I'm like, bitch, look at the research. There's also research on all of this stuff. So please. But it was very scary. And I think what helped me was like taking lots of breaks. Like I would go 2 weeks without posting. And I was like, if this means that I'm going to make less money, that's okay, because my mental health comes first. I started to feel myself getting depressed and getting like really anxious, like posting and engaging. So I was like, I'm going to take a break. My business was great. It actually like flourished because of that. So don't think that because you take a break, your business is going to go away. It actually really benefits you to take care of yourself and get grounded and like do all that. So I think that, you know, give yourself space, let yourself be a human. You can acknowledge that this is really hard. I know it seems silly because people will treat it who don't understand what you're doing. They'll treat it like it's silly. They'll be like, oh, you're just posting. Oh, you're just like an influencer. Like this must not be. And it's like, I want you to go out there and tell your truth to who, like millions of people. Like go open your mouth and tell us your vulnerabilities, tell us your perspective, tell us your truth. Do it. And then tell me how easy that is. And it's like, no one's going to do that. You know what I mean? Because it is emotionally tough. So give yourself room to just like ride the waves as they come. Like that's it. That's all you can really do. And then don't force yourself. Like when it feels shitty, step back and find what makes you come alive again, what really drives you to show up, like your audience, the people who listen to you, like the feedback, like read your DMs from people who are like, I'm so grateful that you're here and this helped me so much. Like remind yourself. And those are the things that I do.
I love that. Like having the support and then like also like letting go of the rules. Cause I feel like there's also so much focus, like you said, like we said earlier, the metrics, or like we have to post twice a day, every day. And you got to tell people if you're going to take a break. And it's like all the things like, no, or you know what, just step away, just whatever kind of feels light for you. Because like you said, if you're not taking care of your mental health, then, you know, like
what's the point?
Show up for people. Yeah, exactly. What is the point?
Yeah.
And people who aren't in the arena, like, right, as Brene Brown says, like, they don't get it. They don't get it. And it's like, oftentimes a lot of the like most intense comments are like from the people that have like 0 posts or 0, you know, they're not putting them.
Exactly. They're just there to like, you know, vent out their frustration.
Get their free therapy out.
Free therapy. Oh man. Yeah, I couldn't relate more. What do you do? Like, what are some things that you do? Because you have like a way bigger following than I do. So I'm like, I can't imagine like the stuff that goes on in your comments.
God, TikTok, TikTok was crazy this summer. And it was just kind of like that's where I started taking breaks in general and starting to remind myself to zoom out, that this is like a projection of how they're seeing the world, especially because a lot of young kids. So I had a role play once where I was saying like, no, you can't copy my homework. Basically, I was trying to like demonstrate this for kids. And there were so many comments were like, oh, I know who you were, like that girl in high school or whatever. But it was so intense.
Oh my God.
No, it was so intense at the time. So I'm glad that was my first one, because it was like, then eventually I was able to like step aside and be like, oh yeah, these are like where kids are really trying to navigate this like difficult time of being liked and wanting to be the popular kid. And they were like, it's no big deal. It's just homework, you know? And, but it did elicit some positive conversation. But I had to step back and like, same thing, like ask for support, be like, was there something I'm missing here or whatnot? Because again, I think if, you know, you try to appease everybody who disagrees with you, then your message is lost. It's no longer
yours.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and this willingness to kind of just fuck up. Like, I've definitely put my foot in my mouth a few times. Like, I've posted some things that like I've then taken down because I'm like, that wasn't sensitive, or that like didn't take into consideration some things. And I try to really just, if you're posting and you're new to posting, I just avoid all or nothing statements. Avoid lists that are like definitive lists of anything. Yeah. You know, if you want to write a list about like how trauma, you know, affects us, I want you to phrase it like 5 ways trauma may be present in your life, might be here, might be showing itself, maybe. Like, I don't know, because we don't. But the minute that you step into the space and you're like, these are the trauma things that show up, and like this is the only black and white situation, it's just like it's not nuanced and it's not going to be mindful. So as long as you're kind of like approaching it like, hey, like it's like this can apply or not apply, this is like, you know, how I see things, but your perspective is cool too. You know, you're opening up space for lots of people to feel what they need to feel and express their points of view, but you don't have to water down your message, and you don't have to, and you can always take responsibility if for some reason you mess up. I mean, it's all part of the learning process. We're never going to be perfect. And I also think it's a healthy mirror to put yourself out there. And when it doesn't go well, to be like, yeah, like, let me take some responsibility for that. I'm not going to die. My reputation is not shot. My ego is not, like, my ego's bruised, like, of course, but like in the long run, it feels good to stay in that alignment and to be like, you know what? I could have done that better. Great. I'm going to next time. And it's done. And it's done. Exactly. And that's it. Right.
Yeah. It's just feedback. It's not failure. And being able to see it that way, like, I can say, okay, well, how do I want to like nuance this like caption a little bit more? Because it is challenging just in this, like, especially in the written or the infographics or even a short video to even kind of explain all the potential nuances. And so at some point, I mean, you can like nuance it at, like you said, however, right, 200 characters or whatever long. And then at some point, like be able to just let it go and be okay with it.
Okay. So to wrap it up, I would love to ask you, maybe for like your top advice for anybody who's stepping into this space that you're in. And, if you're a therapist or a coach or a healer and you're, starting to step out into your voice online and maybe start a business, is there anything that you would kind of give us advice on? Things that you might have wanted to get advice on?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that like, anyone that you admire that is, putting themselves out there in a really authentic, genuine, ethical, integral way, to see how you can put that on yourself, right? And so in the sense, embody that yourself, but from your own lens, again, like we're not trying to copy, don't try to do the exact same thing that someone else is doing, because that's what's really interesting is you having your unique point of view on it. And if it's like, for me, like I really love how Gabby is so authentic online. And so I'm like, okay, how can I step in and show more of my personality or my personal self? Like, how can I do that from my lens? And so that's kind of what I would suggest for myself.
I am honestly so inspired by your TikTok. I love you so much. Like you inspired me to like actually explore more video content and like my humor and to like actually put myself out there in that way. Cause I was felt unsafe because it was new. And so thank you for your inspiration. And I feel like we just like live in this bubble in Ohm of like, we all just love and support each other so much. And it's such a special thing because I always forget that's not how it is for everybody, but it's when you are in your integrity, when you are doing your own inner work, when you are like here to serve, to see a mission through, to heal from a conscious place, the community you can build with those kinds of people is very supportive and collaborative and uplifting and empowering. And like, I don't think I've ever felt 1 ounce of anxiety with anybody in this community. And so thank you for being a part of it and for sharing your light with us. And I also want to ask, because we have a mastermind, for those of you listening, opening in June, and it's going to be for those who are just above the beginner level, who have your businesses and you have your clients and you know who you're here to serve, you have your social media going, but it's just like not really working, you're not growing a following, you're hitting the wall because you have too many one-to-one clients and you're not sure how to expand. So my audience generally is like the igniters, right? The Ignite students, the beginning. And so now we're going to be working with our mid-level entrepreneurs. And so you're there. And I would love to hear what your advice is now that you are launched, now that you have a full roster of clients, you're busy. What are some tips that you would give fellow, women, female entrepreneurs who have their businesses, but maybe are looking to get better and make it better?
Yeah, I love that. And kind of right where I'm at is looking at getting really clear on what client dynamics and what issues really light me up. Like, what do I get super energized by? What is it, their personality type? What are they currently dealing with? And like, how can I better service them? So that's like kind of what I'm focusing on. And then how can I scale that? So I'm like, showing up as my best self, being able to speak to more, right? And like more of that. So that's where I'm looking to now kind of create almost like a program based on like now I'm getting really clear on that ideal client, the ideal purpose, because then I know I'm really stepping into more alignment. So I'm just constantly seeking that, like what feels light and expansive and energizing in my body. I just need to keep following that. I don't know what the path is. It's not totally clear yet, but I feel if I just keep taking steps towards that, it'll eventually get clear to me.
Yeah, and the marker is always what feels good in my body, what's aligned, and always and having that connection. Yeah, that's great. And I think it's really funny. It's all about like at the next level. At the beginning, it's like what is my brand? Who am I? What is my voice? How do I want to show up in this social media space? How do I get my first clients? How do I sell? Like all of these like really like learning curve everywhere. And then the second level I found too is like exactly what you're talking about for me as well. It's how do I refine who I love working with to really get super fucking clear so that I can consistently call in the same kind of client? How do I refine my content and see really what's working and what's hitting for people and do more of that? You know, how can I build my community, make it stronger? It's how do I save energy and time, guys? It's like, God, like when you came to me, I know you had the same situation I had. And it's like, I am at my limit with one-to-ones and I want to grow and scale. But how do I do that ethically? And how do I do that without burning out? Mm-hmm. And that's all of the stuff that, you know, is that the mid-level crisis of like, okay, I'm no longer able to run this whole thing on my own. I want it to grow and I'm at my energy and time limit. So how the fuck do I do this? And how do I refine my processes and my client and everything? So it's like, ooh, super tight, super clear and focused, right? Yeah. So I think those are the things to think about if you're in that stage of your growth, you know, hiring out, refining your systems, getting clear, all of those things. And if that's something that you're curious about, send me a DM because I am enrolling 15 women into this mastermind and that's what we're going to be doing. So I want to expand my audience now into this mid-level and beginning range of healers who are starting their businesses. And I hope if you're listening and this is you, let me know because we would love to have you. It's 6 months long. There's a retreat and it's going to be amazing. So just had to like plug that because I'm really freaking stoked about that. But no, it's been so wonderful, Janine, and to watch you grow is so inspiring. And, you know, if you want to follow her, get more of Janine, where can we find you? How can we work with you? What do you have going on for us?
Yeah. So I'm on IG and TikTok under Kreft's Couch. I have a website too, kreftscouch.com. So I'll be updating things that are going on there. Right now I'm full for my one-on-one folks. However, stay tuned because I'm looking like May, June to launch some small group containers to really help folks.
It's going to be juicy, you guys.
Like to help you really embody your purpose. Cause that is like what many of my clients are having a hard time. They're just wanting to step out of their current job or certain relationships and really get into alignment so they can call in amazing, ethical, conscious abundance and just feel really good about life and just kind of get rid of whatever subconscious or trauma responses are showing up. So stay tuned for that.
Oh my God, your groups are going to be freaking lit. I'm like so excited for this. We've been planning it, like her and I, like what's going to be included. And you guys, you're going to want to get in on this as soon as possible. She also has some really beautiful mini courses that I want to mention because they are very affordable and honestly, like really, really, really fucking helpful. Can you tell us about those and where you can get those? Because you guys, it's like 25 or 50 bucks or something. It's like so worth it.
Yeah, they're called Pocket Couch Times. Link is in my bio and on my website. So basically what they are is I just had a lot of, especially like younger folks on TikTok saying like, what do I do in the middle of a panic attack? Or how do I re-regulate after having an anger outburst, in the moment? And so basically they're $25 and I am guiding you through videos and audios, worksheets, basically guiding you in the moment. Like, hey, you're in the middle of a panic attack, go grab some cold ice cubes right now, run them over your hands. I'm literally talking you through it. You're like, okay, once you've done that, I want you to do some breath work, follow me, do some breath work, guided breathing, breathe with me, right? Just as if you were to have a therapist right there with you, guiding you through how to re-regulate. And then there's some really cool worksheets to help you kind of discover your blueprint and how you're showing up in these episodes so you can start to heal from them. So especially if you can't afford therapy or coaching, or you just really need a little extra support, you can download these right to your phone. Go check them out.
Oh my God, please go check those out. Like if I had that when I was having regular panic attacks, I think it would have been so tremendously helpful. And to have a therapist like right there telling me what to do, and when your brain is so overwhelmed with anger or with emotion, sadness or anxiety or whatever it might be, for $25, like that is incredible. So you guys, something for everybody. Go follow her, be a part of her community. She is the sweetest, kindest, most generous, loving human being and very fucking smart and good at what she does. And And also really good at like just bringing out the most in her clients and her community. So go check her out, give her some love, and I'm sure you can hit her up in DMs maybe a minute before she gets back to you, but she's there. And anything else you want to leave our audience with before we head out?
Well, just trust in your knowing. There's a lot of noise out there right now. And I would say if you're feeling kind of lost and scattered, coming back to stillness and what you know to be true for you cannot lead you astray. So follow what's light for you.
Follow what's light for you guys. All right. Until next time, I love you all. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you are having a beautiful week. And if you have any ideas for things you'd like to hear, people you want to see on the podcast, let me know. Send me a DM. I always invite those who I love and my friends and people I think will be of value. But if there's anybody you want to see, I can reach out. But until then, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week, and we will see you next time. And that's our episode for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us at the Conscious Leadership Podcast. I'm so excited. This next year, 2021, is going to be huge. We have so many guests that are coming on that you are going to love. I'm going to be doing some more solo casts and Om Therapy coaching. We have so many things rolling out for you. Retreats, another round of Ignite starting in May, another one starting at the end of the summer, a mastermind, and so many other things. So be sure to stay tuned with us on Instagram. Follow me at om_therapy_coaching and stay tuned for so much goodness coming up. As always, I would love to hear your feedback. Head over to iTunes and leave us a review, and I would love to give you a free copy of my subconscious reprogramming workbook, and that is absolutely free. Just send me a screenshot of your review and on Instagram, and I will be so happy to send that over as my gift for you. And I am sending you so many hugs, so much love, and I hope that this week you are able to find just a little bit more joy in your life. Have a good one, guys.